Welcome, students. We will be looking at environmental management accounting now, and we're going to look at it through two segments. Firstly, we're going to understand the background with respect to environmental management accounting, and then we will be focusing particularly on the techniques themselves. Initially, you have to understand that environmental management accounting is all about cost management, because what people realized as businesses evolved is that there's a huge impact from the environment related costs, and they were not tracking it. That information was not being looked at, was not being managed, and therefore especially in the wake of incidents like the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in 2010, where oil spill happened in one of the oil extraction points in Latin America, off the coast of the Gulf of Mexico, that was owned by British Petroleum, and it was one of the biggest natural disasters ever to happen. So, in the wake of those kind of incidents, and not only that, but many, what people realized was that there's a significant amount of cost control that you can implement and embed if you start tracking environment related costs. And that's how environmental management accounting started to become a more mainstream concept to be discussed at. Even if you look at the ACCA syllabus, only in the most recent iterations of the APM syllabus and SBL also, where you see a more expansive section on environmental management accounting. It used to be like 2 pages. Now, of course, even what we are looking at now at the moment, it's a wider discussion because the importance of it has finally gotten highlighted. Okay, so the challenge was that traditionally in previous or in classical management accounting, there was really no way to track environmental costs, and there was no really classification. And now what we do have is a better classification, a better breakdown, a better understanding of the environmental costs. And there are four types of costs: conventional, contingent, relationship, and reputational. Now, conventional costs are costs that have an environmental impact, such as raw material, energy costs. So, conventional is just your basic understanding of what is coming from the environment, what are we gaining from the environment. The costs related to that. Contingent costs is it's related to future compliance costs. It's all about ensuring or remediation costs when a site is decommissioned. So, it's about doing business and the cost associated in ensuring that whatever you do does not harm the future sustenance and the future existence in a good way of that ecosystem of wherever you're operating. So, for an oil extraction site, the decommissioning cost, which is basically once you finish the oil extraction, you don't just leave it like that. You allocate a certain amount of money. Now itself, you recognize that you have to allocate a certain amount of money by ensuring that the site is well closed, that there are no damages, the ecology and the ecosystem around the site, the environmental ecosystem, natural ecosystem is taken care of, etc. Relationship costs is related to the maintenance of your image, and in terms of dissemination of information, ensuring that the stakeholders who are related to your business, especially in the context of environmental management, the environmental groups, the government, certain environment related ministries, health ministry, whatever, right? Everyone who's related to environmental management are taken care of by especially by providing them the necessary information, by ensuring that you pay the relevant fees, etc. You maintain the right relationships in the right level of diplomacy across. So whatever you spend for that is called a relationship cost. And finally, reputational cost. It's the cost associated with failing to address environmental issues. For example, lost sales due to brand damage. So for example, I can tell you that the British Petroleum incident, I think it wiped off about $3 billion of their company net worth overnight after the incident happened. And there was some really major news about how they were not very serious about the protection of the people in the company, and the oil spill itself on the environment, and the equipment was not, there was a safety check that they had to do, but because of cost concerns they wanted to like skip it. So if that safety check had been done, the issue would have been identified and would have been fixed. So they skipped something for a few $1,000s, and then look at what happened. Thousands of animals died, and still off the Gulf of Mexico, people and animals are bearing the horrible incident and its impact. So you have somewhat of a description here that you can take a look at. Okay, so that brings us to environmental management accounting by and in itself. EMA is concerned with the accounting information needs of managers in relation to the organization's activities that affect the environment as well as environment related impacts of the organization. So everything that you do regarding the environment, all your activities and the impact to the environment, managing that, the information, producing that information and managing and making decisions, all of that is environmental management accounting. It involves the identification and estimation of financial and non-financial costs of environmental related activities with a view to control and reduce these costs. So one big part of that is classifying your environment related costs and then reducing it, maximizing or the efficiency, minimizing the loss, and just managing and making sure that you're extracting the maximum amount of value you can with the environment related costs that you are incurring. So EMA essentially identifies and estimates the costs of environment related activities and seeks to control these costs. And we have already looked at the 4 main types of costs related to the environment. So what in particular happens with respect to these different types of costs by EMA? With respect to conventional costs, we try to identify and monitor the usage and the cost of these resources, and we try to we try to reduce these costs. With respect to contingent costs, we try to estimate the future contingent costs, and we try to ensure that they are taken into consideration in any kind of investments that you consider in that particular scope, so that you know that your entire life cycle is being looked at. And it also means that you assure for yourself that you are already allocating funds to make sure that the site is well prepared and well taken care of. And it doesn't necessarily have to be after your project is over. It can be something as you implement and as you go along itself. Relationship costs essentially help us focus our attention on the building these costs into project appraisal and taking steps to potentially reduce these costs. So for example, life cycle costing can be a very effective tool here, which we will take a look at briefly. But it's the idea that at different stages of your life cycle, you have to maintain different levels of relationships with different types of stakeholders, in terms of information, in terms of media, in terms of government, in terms of ministries and regulators and authorities. You have a lot of things to manage, and relationship cost management essentially helps us take care of that. And finally, reputational cost classification helps us to be prudent and to be careful and to know that if we don't take care of our business well, if we don't be environmentally conscious, the payback will be great. So that's how EMA is used in the context of these 4 types. In addition to this, as a next step would be under EMA that you would develop environment related KPIs, just like we looked at previously in the role of the management accountant in ESG. So here, if you're looking at it from an environmental management accounting perspective alone, then you're definitely looking at establishing KPIs and targets and goals and measuring that performance and tracking it and trying to achieve your targets, like the 2040 net zero carbon emission target by Apple. So that is a big part, and you will know that both or the consideration of environment related KPIs will be both internal and external. It will also be financial, non-financial. It will be qualitative and quantitative, and it will also be short term and long term. A good balanced mix and a good balanced approach has to be taken when you're establishing environmental related KPIs and goals and objectives, and identifying critical success factors for you and your business. So that's what we understand in the context of the introduction to environmental management accounting. We will be looking at a number of different techniques that we can use in the process of EMA as we go along in the next segment. Thank you so much.